Hey, Sussy Stuff. I'm Emma here with Molly, and today we are breaking down the Ohio State and Texas game. This was such a physical matchup, especially on the defensive side. It was really impressive, actually, especially in the new age of college football where offenses rule the line every single time. This was a true old school defensive battle, and it was something really entertaining to watch. This was Arch Manning's long awaited debut as Texas's QB1, and it kind of turned into a reality check in the horseshoe. And Ohio State reminded everyone why they are the defending champs. They did win 14-7. Again, amazing defenses here. So, Molly, how do you feel about this game?
I I'm quite sad. Um, it just sucks. I think the whole thing sucks. I feel bad for Arch. I feel bad for I think there was so much hype put on this team and we've kind of talked about the AP polls of like it's really hard to know what a number one team is going to look like till week one. And so we're getting a little sneak peek, and I think just across the board, college football, it was such a tough weekend. Like these were really big games for a lot of these teams, and so I'm disappointed. I wish some plays would have been called differently. I wish the sun wouldn't have been so just crazy in everybody's eyes. Ultimately, I think we are looking at, in my opinion, the top two teams in the nation. I do think, especially defensively, these are elite teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the offense had a little bit of growing pains, but you have two brand new quarterbacks. They have to learn on the field. You can't just learn in the classroom. You have to get out there, have the experience for yourself. And so I thought Julian Sayin, who's that former Alabama player, he transferred to Ohio State. I think he grew a little bit faster, but I think Manning would have grown if Sark would have called the plays differently in that first half. It really seemed like he didn't trust his quarterback enough. It seemed very conservative, relied heavily on the defense, which obviously a fantastic defense, but you have to let him play. And I know you're playing a big brand name in college football, Ohio State, in the shoe. I know this is a tough matchup. I know you want to win it, but you have this incredible moment to gain all this experience in this game. So I was like, why don't you just let him play? There are going to be growing pains, but normally you do those against like a smaller team to really work out those kinks early on. You don't have that luxury. And like you were saying as well, it's really hard to do these preseason rankings because of the transfer portal, especially. You used to know a little bit more than we do now, which is why teams like Florida State probably deserve to be ranked before the season. But how would we have known that after last year? So honestly, I don't like preseason rankings. I don't like in season rankings. I don't want them to rank until November because then you get 2 months of seeing what these teams are on a week to week basis. And then I feel like you would get a fuller picture, especially with how much teams can grow week in and week out.
Yeah, it was like the weekend of upsets. Like I just feel like every team I was like, oh, they're on paper. I was like, they're taking it home. They're taking it home. It was like, woof. I was so wrong. And we talked a lot about this last year. It's like trust the paper is hard. It's hard in college football, but also something that we talked a lot about last year, which I think is a same problem that's happening this year is all gas no brakes, which is Texas motto, all gas no brakes, and I don't feel like I saw gas this weekend. Like it was all brakes in my opinion. And like you said, I think the plays were very conservative. I don't at one point during, I think it was the second quarter, I was like, why is he not throwing the ball? Like, why is a route not being run? Like, I don't understand. And then, he threw an interception like the first time he threw it. And I was like, well, that sucks. He underthrew it. But I also think there's no way that this is good for Archer's mental health, especially in a game when a coach is just not trusting him and not letting him play. But also, he is incredibly athletic. You just said this wasn't really the game where we could figure it out. So I'm looking forward to the next season, and there are in the next few weeks a few cupcake games for them to kind of get their groove going. Maybe Sark can kind of start opening up some routes, seeing how he does playing with that. And we'll just have to see. But we've said this several times. It is a lot on this kid to have like the entire nation looking at a 21-year-old kid being like, yeah, he's gonna be the Heisman winner, and he's a Manning, he's a Manning, and it's like, oh, he is a Manning, and he's naturally talented, but wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, and like whip football smart growing up in that environment with all of his mentors. But I just thought a lot was wrong with the O line as well. But you have four new starters up front, really struggled against Ohio State's pass rush and couldn't open up holes for that run game. So Manning was really under constant pressure. And then you had those red zone failures, which were kind of infuriating. It was just like, why can't you get it in? So it was really, really tough across the board. But again, I think Steve calling plays very conservatively early and too many runs, too many short passes. They didn't get into a rhythm that I expect from a Steve Sarkisian offense. So, like he said after the game, he's like, I gotta let him play. But obviously, this is not going to hurt their playoff hopes by any means. With the new 12 team playoff, Texas can recover. Their schedule isn't too difficult. I know they have Georgia on the slate. I know they have Florida on the state, but if they can make sure to be 10-2, they're going to be golden. I think they're still good to be in the playoffs. It was crazy seeing all of these playoff caliber matchups this past weekend. Obviously, LSU Clemson was phenomenal. FSU shocked the nation, beating Bama. So again, I don't love the preseason rankings. I'm like, can we just wait till November? Let's get a resume under these teams for what they are now, especially with the transfer portal. It's like, who knows? But obviously, Ohio State is going to be a big threat this year. Their defense is absolutely elite. Julian Sayin is only going to get better. He was great. He showed flashes of greatness in this past game. He is going to be a good player. So I think everyone's still at this point chasing Ohio State. I think Texas is good. I don't know if they're playoff ready yet, but it is a long season. We were in August. It's August 30th. We're moving into September. It is so early until that final game gets played end of November. So there are so many things that can happen for all of these teams across the board. That's why I think the overreactions are they need to shut down. We can't overreact about one game, especially when there's two big names in college football, like a Texas Ohio State, like an LSU Clemson, like a Bama FSU playing each other, and then one of them loses and you're like, "Well, they suck. They're not gonna be good." It's like game 1, week 1. Normally, we like to have those get right games to start the season, and they didn't. They went to games that looked like they should have been in the playoffs. So, it was a very entertaining weekend for sure.
Yeah, I think that the memes and the posts about apologizing to Quinn Ewers and all of that, like, I was like, that's really dramatic. Like, we're week one, guys. Like, let's all calm ourselves down. But I think, we kind of chatted before we started recording today, and we were saying that this is such an even playing field this year. I feel like we've got a lot of new quarterbacks in the SEC, just in college football in general. We've got just brand new teams in each of these, and we talked a lot about that in the previews for each team. And I think it's really going to come down to coaching. And I think Ryan Day just outcoached Steve. And as much as I love, Mr. Steve, I think he was outcoached, and it does worry me going up, into games like Georgia with Kirby Smart. It's like, well, that's nerve wracking. And so I think this team has every ounce of talent. They have every ounce of everything they'll ever need. They have all of the tools. It's generally going to come down to how are they being coached, what plays are being called, and is Matthew McConaughey on the sideline? So
And he was. I was like, "Where is he? Where is he?" And then he was
yeah,
there. But again yeah. But again, I'm just like, Steve, he made me so upset. I was like, why don't you let this kid play? If he fails, let him fail. And that is the biggest learning experience you could ever get. But what you just told your quarterback is, I don't trust you. And that will kill your confidence. And I think if he was just like, go out there, let's run the playbook that I know we can run. Let's be explosive, let's be fierce, let's break up this defense because this defense is hard to play against, then maybe they could have generated something more. Maybe they could have opened it up in the third and fourth quarter and really gotten to play once they attack. But it was so conservative. And I was like, I know you have a great defense, but it was so frustrating to watch because I'm like, I know you can do so much more. And it was really a shame. And I hope that doesn't kill Arch's confidence because Arch should be fantastic, but we just didn't get to see him in a good playbook. And I was really sad to see it.
I'm just hoping to see him and Ohio State be able to rematch this season. I would love to see them play again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I instead of just week one was tough, and I remember like last year whenever I was looking at the schedule for this year, I was like, damn, they have to play Ohio State again week one. Like that sucks.
And I told my group chat last night when I was watching all these games, I'm like, I would rather lose in week one in a bad way. And not that they lost in a bad way, but I would rather lose in week one than week 14. I would rather have that now. So that is fuel to get me through the rest of the games. It's like, do you want to feel like that again? You are so close to being like that again. And that I think fuels a team early on. I remember Bama lost to Texas early on one season, and then they went on to win the SEC. And it was the fuel that they needed to be like, you have zero margin of error. Granted, there's a little bit more margin of error right now, but I think this is a good thing for the teams that lost because either you're going to shape up, you're going to do better, and you're going to become the elite team that we think you are on paper, or you're going to falter and lose about 4 games, and that'll be your season, and you'll try again next year. So it is really going to be interesting to see how these teams grow throughout the season, but it was so exciting to see these matchups in week one. It really brought a big excitement to the league. And also, you know what? I know we were rooting for Texas here at SEC stuff, but Lee Corso picking Ohio State, bookending his first pick versus his last pick, and then them winning, and then pretty much all the teams he picked winning, the big like shocker ones. It was really sweet to see for him. So if anything, Texas did Lee Corso a solid.
Well, guys, you guys let us know what you think in the comments about how Texas is going to be this season. What were your thoughts on the game? Honest opinions. We'd love to know. Drop them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and follow us on social media, and we will see you next week.